We let people come in. Hello, everybody. We'll be starting shortly. Welcome. We have a nice number of people just logging in.
Great. How many are there?
Yeah, we have over 60 people registered, but we have another bunch of people registered in LinkedIn. So I'm hoping that they are logging in as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we got some people I can see in the
Excellent.
the lower bar there. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Welcome. One more minute and we'll be starting.
I hope they don't think everybody's on mute.
Oh, just waiting.
Hello, and thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Susanna Ecclestone. For those who don't know me, I'm the Executive Director at the British Argentine Chamber of Commerce, and I'm very proud to have with us today this prestigious panel that goes from the US, Sweden, the UK, Argentina, and every country in between, hopefully with our audience and everybody else joining us. The idea of the conversation today is to discuss communication strategies and market opportunities for SMEs entering new markets, new countries, and all the panelists are very experienced and seasoned experts in the sector. So we want to keep this conversation fluid. Put your questions in the question box and don't be shy and participate. We're going to have a 1 hour to discuss, a few topics, and hopefully that will be enough. And if not, we'll be happy to arrange another event at some other time. But we'll try to just go and straight into business right away. So let me just briefly introduce each of our panelists, and then we'll go straight into the questions. Hello, Anika, and thank you very much for joining us today. Anika is a GTM and growth catalyst expert for international brands that seek to establish a business presence in new markets. She possesses a solid business acumen as a stellar track record when it comes to growing international business across the Nordics. She has a deep understanding and proven philosophy of how she builds, manages, and leads not only successful, but also sustainable teams. Anika's diverse background and multi-sector experience illustrate her aptitude of knowing what truly drives commercial success. Thank you, Anika, for being with us.
Thank you so much for the invite. It's very exciting to be here.
Wonderful. And Matias Tejero. Matias has been a long member of the Chamber of Commerce, and he's a chartered accountant and corporate finance consultant specialized in media, advertising, and tech companies, achieving more than 30 years experience in those sectors. He's a managing partner of More Tejero, director of More Business Embassy. He started working in the advertising business in the 90s and has achieved a great experience in management consultancy, due diligence, and M&A operations in the communications industry. He has worked in M&A for the seller and the buyer side, both for independent companies and large holdings, and has a great expertise at advising companies in developing business abroad. Thank you, Matias, for being with us. It's good to have you. Matias is in Buenos Aires, so it's a bit earlier there today. Paula, hello.
Thanks, Susana. Thanks for the invitation, and it's a great opportunity to be here. And thanks for the introduction.
Wonderful. And Paula, thank you for being with us. Paula is a director at Be Influencers. She's a communications marketing veteran, heading the UK operation of Be Influencers. But before that, she worked at the global Unilever team in Edinburgh, London, crafting integrated programs focused on purpose. Before that, she ran the digital and consumer teams in Edelman, Buenos Aires, where she was for 12 years. She holds local and global expertise, positioning, growing, protecting, and helping solve business problems for renowned brands through brand reputation building, crisis management, social and influencer-centric campaigns, events and creative content creation, as well as supporting through identification, planning, and rollout of their social purpose. Thank you, Paula, for being with us. It's great to have you again.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
And Be Influencers is also a member of the Chamber, so thank you for the support. And from Be Influencers as well is Juan. Hello, Juan, how are you?
How are you, Susana? Good morning.
So Juan Marenco is obsessed with cultural communications and their challenges, and he's always thought that a literal approach leads to known solutions. So he believes and actively seeks out the roads less taken. In 2017, he hopped on the unstoppable train of that is Be Influencers, and he's been in permanent expansion ever since. From their office in Buenos Aires, they grew an operation all the way to Mexico, Peru, and the UK, markets where they now have a local presence. They partner with clients such as Disney, Bayer, Clorox, Colgate, TNT, Warner Channel, and others. And with a sharp eye on analysis, Be Influencer studies and investigates the culture of influence, a current state of affairs, and there is to stay. Thank you very much. He's also a member of the Chamber of Commerce and the RCA. We have with us Frederick as well. Hello, Frederick.
Hello.
And your last name is very difficult to pronounce. Could you please pronounce it for me, please?
Well, in English, Panzerhjelm, it's quite a strange name. Yeah.
Panzerhjelm.
Yes.
Great stories that are well and honestly told, tribes and culture are created, not transaction and prospects. To Frederick, perception is key to brands and business. You might be a nice person or a nice brand, but if you're perceived as the opposite, you are the opposite. I love that. And that is really what counts. With a long experience from creative and strategic development of international brands, this simple insight has served him as a guiding lighthouse. The new communication landscape forces brands to rethink not only their communication, but also their business model. And Frederick has a long experience that started in the 90s with the advertising industry, founded a boutiques agencies that later merged with BBDO, and is presently at the Swedish Villa, who is our co-organizer in this event today. So thank you very much, Frederick, for being with us.
Love being here. What a great crowd. I'm impressed.
I know. Yeah. I know. We are very excited. We have 32 people registered and with us right now. So we'll go straight into the questions. As I said, we're going to try to keep this very fluid. So please feel free to, jump in if there is something that you would like to, to comment on. Anita, I would like to start with you. And from your experience of establishing and growing large and well-known international companies such as Getty Images and PR Newswire in all the Nordic markets, is there anything you can share that may be applicable for MSCs, which is a topic that we want to stress on today?
Yes, thank you. So what I can share is purely from my anecdotal experience, real life learnings, that is. And growing big international brands into new markets are often a tier 2 or tier 3 situation for that global brand. The brand is also maybe the company is a household brand in their origin market or in their tier 1 markets. So the understanding and the patience for building and entering into a brand new market is maybe not always there, even if it's a global company. So my experience has been that I have to form go-to-market strategies without little or no budget, with no local resources, and a central communication or marketing strategy that doesn't do the job locally. So I've experienced that. And I think that's a good learning for small, medium-sized enterprises. When they're entering into new markets, it's a very big step usually for them. The ambition is there. the focus is there, and the understanding for what it takes to do it maybe is better in place. So that's a very positive thing for small, medium-sized enterprise when they're entering into new markets.
Wonderful. Anybody to comment on that? I think that is something that we're going to be discussing in different of the questions.
Well, Annika, would you say that small and medium-sized companies have a more humble view on what they're doing, and they don't their self-confidence or the fact that they are not a big brand in their first market, does that make them a better listener?
Exactly. I think you're spot on, Frederick, because you need to be very curious and very interested in what actually makes this local market tick and how you specifically will enter it to build your brand, create awareness and likability around your brand. There's unique keys in every market. And I think that big household brand name won't really consider that in the first steps. And in the first steps, it's really important. So you're spot on, Frederick.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And that kind of ties on with the second question that I had from Matthias. When you are approaching a bigger or more developed market, there are surely several challenges to face. Which one do you think is the most difficult to overcome?
I think that one of the most difficult issues to overcome is to beat the implicit or the unconscious bias of the other market, of the people taking decisions in the other market. Sometimes when you came from a small market to a big one or more developed, you will find a lot of prejudice in business or some presumptions or assumption that maybe your quality or your services or your product is not as good as from a bigger market. So that's something that is very difficult to beat, because that thing it's very deep in people's brain, in maybe below their conscious level. So it's something that you have to consider in your communication. It's something that is very important for you to get people trust in you, in your product, in your firm. And let me illustrate this with a small example. When I started working, helping companies to develop new business, new markets, one of my first jobs was in London to offer, try to get clients for an Argentinian software company that wants to export their product. They have a really good and innovative ERP for advertising business. And the first thing I did when I came to London was buying an umbrella, because it was raining as usually. But then after a lot of meetings, the people say, and I receive a lot of very good comments about the software and the demo, but there are a lot of concerns too and doubts about acquiring software from an Argentinian company. At that time, I'm talking about 1998. And after more than 20 years, you still need an umbrella to go around London, and there are still a lot of concerns and assumptions about the Argentinian exports. That, for example, people still associate Argentinian export with meat, soybeans, and other commodities and products. But not many people know that, for example, knowledge-based services or software is the third export sector in Argentina. So, and the main market for that is the United States. So there's a very good quality products in that field. And when you add that kind of information to your communication, not talk only about your product or your service, when you understand after some market research what are the concerns on those markets about your country, about your market, about that could involve your firm too. You got the chance with information, because information is the best way to enter in that and to beat that implicit bias. when you include in your communication, PR, influencers, or other kind of media or channels you use, when you add that kind of information about the market, your country, the different possibilities that the industry have, so you get the chance to open that little door in the brain and start changing the mind of your consumers, and that's something that is very helpful for SMEs in small markets to enter in other ones, to show that their quality is good and they can provide a very good product or service, and definitely beat that unconscious bias that will make them a huge barrier to pass through.
Excellent. When you touch on the preconceptions, and I'm going to go a little off script here, Frederick and Annika, what do you think are the preconceptions with the Nordic countries? I mean, which is where you normally operate, or you have perhaps your largest clients.
Oh, please, Frederick, can I answer this first?
Yeah, I'll give it away. I'll give it away.
I love this question. Thank you so much, Susan. You could have done it better with a script. The perception is, and look at this thing that everybody does, they do, the Nordics. And they sort of circle with a little hand and say, the Nordics. That's a region. And they think that you have one go-to-market strategy, one way of communication, one size fit all in this region, the Nordics. And we all know that in each country has their own business culture, and they have their own perception of what's acceptable in terms of, marketing. Is it irony? Is it humor? Is it serious? But every big global brand entering into this region, they do the Nordics. What do you say, Frederick?
I agree. There's this story that goes around within that is, this company is having a meeting, and there's participants, one from Norway, one from Denmark, one from Finland, and one from Sweden. And they have a conference all day, and they decide a lot of things and planning for moving forward. And then the Norwegians fly back to Oslo and so on. And then what happens then? Yeah, what happens after this meeting? So the following is happening. The Finnish person goes back to Helsinki and execute what they have said they would do. The Danish goes back and does the total opposite of what was decided. The Norwegian, they don't do anything, and the Swedes wants to call another meeting.
Sounds like Latin America.
Exactly.
For sure. I mean, we go through exactly the same. It's like we are this bunch of very absolutely not similar countries in the same region, and we have all of our qualities which are amazing and very differentiating. We almost all of us speak the same language except Brazil, which sometimes it'd be great that people that are trying to make some business in Latin America learn beforehand. And we experience the same thing. Well, Juan is the one who's doing all of Latin America for being influencers, but I feel like we go through the same experience and frustrations when they do it, Latin America.
Yeah, it's often considered as one country, and there are a lot of difference between from Mexico to Argentina. There are a lot of different cultures, different ways to do business, different ways to understand communication, to behave on business, and it's a common mistake to consider Latin America and doing the same strategy for the whole country, for the whole region. Sorry.
No, and different. I was going to say just business maturity as well, depending on the industry.
Yeah, I think there's a book. There's a very nice book that I'm always talking about this book with Paula and the Be Influencer team. That is The Culture Map from Erin Meyer. It's a very nice book about different cultures, how to approach businesses in different countries, and I think that we all have this. I think that Annika expressed it perfectly about this. This is the Nordics, Latin America, and we make the same mistakes. No, we say the Nordics, we say Europe. Europe is big, and we hate that people say Latin America. because when you do make business in Latin America, we have offices in Peru, in Mexico, in Colombia. It's very, very different between our countries. And we are neighbors and we speak the same language, but we are not the same. So we have to learn before in Latin America, and then we have to learn in Europe, in North America, etc. It's not the same. It's not the same state as Canada. It's not the same New York at LA. It's not the same.
But how do companies take that? I mean, when all of you approach companies and you say, well, you kind of have the same strategy for Mexico or for, you know, Sweden or for Denmark, and you say you need to develop different strategies. How do companies react to that? Are they resistant to this? What type of responses do you get?
Well,
Juan, please.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think it's always easier to make like several assumptions. No, it's like the Nordics, Latin America, and the global companies they are tested. They're always tempted to make the same strategy in every country because they want to have the smaller marketing group and to say, okay, if I have this idea, this strategy, it would be the same in Argentina and the same in Mexico, that the same in Sweden, and it's not. So I think there are more and more companies that are understanding this, and they're making local strategies. I have an example. Netflix, they have the Latin American offices in LA, like a year ago, and 3 months ago they moved all the company to Mexico because they say, okay, at least we have to be in Latin America. So if we are going to talk about Latin America, let's be in Latin America and let's have people from Latin America working in our strategies, and not that we have like people from the States working about talking about Chile. No, it's not the same. It's not the same.
Okay,
think,
so
you know,
they saw the light.
Yeah.
Also from, oops, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, just a simple example from my experience. Also, I've seen working at a global team with the global brand managers, how hard it is sometimes to sell to the client, to understand that you need to do something that can escalate. And you obviously have an overarching idea, something that is going to drive this strategy around the world, but you need to understand that probably what you think you can execute in the UK, it's not going to be not even understood the same way in Argentina. I remember with Dirt is Good, which is Ala in Argentina and Persol here, and they talk about how dirt is good. But yes, for us in Argentina, going outdoors and getting dirty, it's not as easy because it's not as safe as doing it here. Or in India, they realize that mothers put a lot of time washing the clothes of their kids by hand to send them to school. So no, dirt is not great. So you had to reshuffle that and send a global idea that then you can localize and make sure that you're putting, you know, the local flavor to it, because there's not one size that fits all, and it's never going to be, I think. Now we in the last 10 years, I think we've started to understand it in a different way, at least.
Frederick?
Yeah, to some, I don't know, but to some degree, it's quite understandable being a global brand and switching to having a different strategy for each and every country is sort of letting go of control. And so I don't have many examples of brands that is sort of giving up on that, and I think they also to some extent are calculating that, okay, maybe this communication strategy and the messaging and what we're doing it's not optimal, but it's sort of everything is a compromise, and so it will fit as many countries, people's perceptions, ideas, or whatever. So the communication for that reason becomes quite bleak. That doesn't really perform as well, and probably that is sort of calculated. That's my experience anyway. So we can't possibly harbor doing all of that work. I think I have one example. I don't know if they're still applying it, but the furniture retailer, the Swedish IKEA, from my understanding, I don't know if this is up to date, but what they have been doing is letting each country choose their own communication experts. And so they could do local brand communication, but that is sort of tapping into some definite brand values that they need to follow, but they can do their own interpretation and they can do localized advertising within their own language. And then I think very much of the product communication, the sort of offers and all of that is sort of centrally produced. And so I've seen campaigns from the US or UK and Germany for IKEA, which is a very, very Swedish brand. And looking at the executions of what they have been doing is quite, to a Swede, is quite fun. I think it's much better than the things that they're doing in Sweden.
Yes, Annika, yes.
So to all of you, your points, one of my key learnings throughout these years that I worked establishing and doing new market entries and go-to-market strategies is that you must prioritize to focus all your communication efforts on the brand before the sell when entering into a new market. And so to your point, Fredrik, about IKEA, what they have evolved in doing is very, very interesting, because it is the brand that needs to enter into the market, and the services and the products, how you sell them, that will probably be a more, what is the word? Homogen.
Homogeneous.
Oh, exactly. Deal. And of course, you always challenge when you say we have to do a diversification of our go-to-market strategy or communication strategy or marketing strategy. That's from a resource perspective, of course, and also, as you said, all of you said, control. But if you focus on the brand and making that work in the local market as when you're entering, I think that's a good way of going about it.
Yeah, one of the things I also, one aspect that I've learned, or which actually is a fact to some degree, in all my years working with global and international brands that wants to enter into the Swedish or Scandinavian market, has been very much also of telling them to not run their communication. It's been a case of damage control, rather, because if you're going to run this advertising or this campaign with the way you're telling your story, people are going to hate you. So you better not run it, you know. And I've also been into project with global brands within FMCG, where everybody has to come together, and it's always a compromise, and that's a big problem. And just, I've been in projects where we have said no to creative developments for Swedish, for running it in Sweden, and trashing communication that costed millions and millions of euros to execute, and it was never used.
So, I mean, now, and to my next question is, I mean, and perhaps we can start with Matthias and then everybody can pitch in. Has COVID and the pandemic obviously affected, we know it has, but how this internationalization of brands and this moving into new markets, has it stopped at all? Annika mentioned briefly the whole budget, I mean, the big budget, you know, topic. How have you seen this past year go by in this sector, in this part?
I think that one thing that definitely changed it is the location is not as much as important as it used to be. You still need a local partner. I think it's a good idea to have a local partner to adapt your business, your idea, your communication. But location is not a must as it used to be, and that's good for a lot of entrepreneurs that do not have huge budgets to travel and to spend a lot of time abroad. So this helps a lot of small companies that allow them to do more virtual meetings and and try to use this for communication, to get in touch with more clients, and then maybe to close big deals. They're in the near future, they will have to fly to close the deal face to face. It's for big deals, it is still could be happening, but this allowed to do a lot of pre-meetings and different getting more in contact with potential clients with a reduced budget, which is good for entrepreneurs because that's what they don't have. They don't have budget to use. And also, I think that one thing that is going to change is that this shows that all of us that there could be a new pandemic in the future. That could affect companies, business, and it's not a bad idea to have your resources diversify around the world, because if your whole office is affected, and maybe you can get out of business from one day to another. So having backup plans and having resources diversify around the world will you'll get more covered if something like this happens again, to be prepared and not to lose your position in the market, because you are not going to suffer to this, and you're going to keep working from the day after this virus spread around your office. And it's something that I think it's going to change. That there will be a lot of backup plans around the world for companies.
Future, yeah. Anybody comment on that?
Yeah, and I think there's been opportunities. For instance, for us, it's been completely different. We launched during the pandemic, despite we were doing it anyway, because that's how we roll. And we despite obviously being very challenging, because we were relying on many networking events and getting to know people in person and being able to sell them something that Matthias was saying at the beginning, this Argentinian way of doing things, which is very tailor made, which is very dedicated. It's has a lot of hand holding. At least that's what we bring to the table, aside from the expertise. It gave us the opportunity to definitely have people more interested in listening to what we were doing, now that everyone was at home and we were kind of at the same level situation, no one at the office. I think everyone was way more permeable to listen to something new. And on the other hand, many started new businesses because they had to, or they saw this as an opportunity. So I believe that compared to how it used to be, aside from what Matthias was saying about obviously contingency plans from of all sorts coming now, and the fact that we were all standardized in some way, having maybe not an office, working from home, children screaming in the background, and things like this, made it way more personable, way more humble, and everyone was willing to take a call with you. And for us, that was great. It has been really, really not successful, but yeah, it's been good. That was definitely an opportunity we took advantage of.
Well, be influencers, being exactly an influencers type of agency, Juan, I mean, obviously the whole world changed in the media, and the way that businesses are marketing, and as Paula said, you decided to launch and just carry on. But has it changed, or for better, for worse, this whole influencer world?
Well, in fact, 1 year ago I think was the peak when the pandemic started, and in at least in Latin America, we went all home, and we be closed in Buenos Aires. In Argentina, will be like 7 months full lockdown. So in those months, we have a big connection in digital world, and a lot of people consuming influencers, and it was like, so it was a big opportunity for us. So a lot of brands that were making out of home, or were making a lot of different kind of strategic things, start to challenge or start working with influencers. So yes, it it was great for us. It's difficult to say, but it was a big opportunity for us, and we kind of, I think we kind of took it. We took it in Argentina, we took it in Mexico, we took it in Peru, and we are taking it in UK, as Paula said. But in fact, the biggest learning is like we have to understand the culture. We have to understand what's going on, what people is consuming. Why are they consuming influencers? Why are these influencer marketing is not like consumer celebrities. They are consuming anything. They are consuming a lot of things, the small things, and that's what we was learning these few months in Mexico, in Peru, in UK. We start to understand what's the difference in these local markets, so we can be better in these strategies when we are local.
And one question as a consumer, although I don't consume TikTok, but has TikTok affected or improved or helped you in other way? I mean, has it helped companies? Is it a cheaper option for companies to market their products? Obviously, we're talking about small companies.
It's not cheaper. It's not cheaper. It's different. It's very different because it's like when you follow influencers in Instagram and you follow the algorithm in TikTok. No? The algorithm is always telling you what you consume. It's very different about that. Last year we have to remember that we have the pandemic. We have Trump. They have some companies making a boycott to Instagram. So a lot of American companies were not investing in Instagram, so they want to invest in TikTok. And then Trump was boycotting TikTok, so a lot of brands, American brands, that are our clients, stop investing in TikTok. So we thought, okay, what's going on here? so
but
TikTok,
TikTok disrupted Trump.
And TikTok disrupted Trump, and it's a different approach. It's a creative approach. TikTok is not the same thing as Instagram or YouTube. I think it's a new kind of social consuming, about leaving the power to the algorithm. So the brands are still willing to know how it works and how to challenge it and how to make it without risk, because companies don't like risk. But it's like we are in this kind of learning now.
Yeah.
And it's also giving, I think, TikTok is giving you kind of the snapshot of what's coming in terms of influencers, because as he was saying, like, we are trying to read culture and what's going on, and you see that the aesthetic of TikTok is completely different to Instagram. It's not aesthetic at all. It's way more genuine, it's straightforward, it's raw. So then you see, and it has an immense amount of following and impact, and then you see things that were created on TikTok everywhere else, and driving trends and creating social and cultural moments. So then you see that this is how people are not following celebrities for influence, they're following people like them, which is also very interesting to the whole concept of the influencers. And that's something we generally try to push, because you're trying to pay attention to someone that is sort of speaking your same language, is someone that you would look up to, that you can trust, that you could take an advice from, and then this leads into basically why marketers should care about influencers. But that's opening another door.
So I guess you will be debating all this for some time now, but it's a very fluid sector at the moment, I guess, and very challenging at the same time, perhaps, to just guide these companies through this world of, advertising that is a bit kind of ad hoc at times.
Yeah. Doable. Yeah.
Yes, Annika, yes.
And also taking into consideration that with the pandemic and the rapid polarization that we see in the world, the digitization also enables disinformation that can cost brands a lot in reputation and the whole market perception. So companies doesn't like risk, so they need to be extremely aware of how to manage the threat of disinformation in this age of time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. So Annika, I was going to ask you, knowing how brilliant you are, you master this full 360 communication toolbox. I'm curious to understand how come you use PR as your main tool to spearhead your GTM strategies.
Yes, well, because of resource situation, this is by far the most bang you can get for your buck if you do it right. And also for the key learning that I shared with you earlier, that to focus all your communication efforts on the brand when entering into a new market instead of selling your products or services. That has to come second. Then with the digitalization of the media space and how we consume media today, the appetite for relevant or content at all is more or less unstoppable. And the distribution to media points and publishers today enables brands to also communicate in formats like imagery and footage that we as consumers love. It's chunk-sized bites, it's really fast, we understand complex things really rapidly, and so on. So the whole digitalization of the media landscape with the distribution aside can actually make PR your primer tool in your toolbox to spearhead entering into a new market. That's my learning. You will, of course, do with every communication effort and with every marketing effort. It's not a one shot or a silver bullet thing. You have to be extremely consistent over time, and with PR, you also have to find a newsworthiness in your story. But you can actually get third parties that are most credible and good, source for hindering disinformation to speak your part on behalf of you and be your local market credible voice. That's how I found PR to be most helpful for me when entering into all these new marketplaces with their unique dynamics. And that was my most helpful tool to spearhead into a brand awareness and to rapidly, with as little investment as possible, in terms of budget, to get likability for my brand.
Right. Anybody to comment on that? Yep. No?
Well, yeah, I agree. I think it's more tell, and sell in that way. And I think going as a new brand entering to a new market, if you start by selling and not telling, it's probably and PR. My experience from PR is it's an excellent way of getting somebody else telling your story, as you were mentioning, and also becoming relevant. And it's always, recommendations are also, that is why we use recommendations a lot. Buying from someone, we look at what other people are saying, not what the brand is selling or promising. So all of that is sort of more trustable, and I think that it leads to success. And I think companies that are totally obsessed about talking too much about themselves and why they are great, they become irrelevant.
Yep. And I assume that, a lot has changed, obviously, in the last year, and a lot of ways that people are looking at certain products and, at purchasing certain products or consuming certain products has also changed. Has that changed also in, obviously, you mentioned again, the big word budget in all this. Do you see that companies, obviously we're talking big brands, perhaps more than smaller brands, have put more money into this, less money into this, have decided that we touched on that briefly, change their strategy, or is just, just putting more money into advertising and promoting their products during this period now? Obviously, it changes from country to country, but in general, I would say.
I think companies has to, everything has changed actually. You know, it's everything is turned on its head today. And the way we used to business is not the way we have to we do business today. Just imagining that, I think the figure is like 40% of everything being sold in e-commerce is sold on Amazon in the US. That is sort of a crazy number. The e-commerce business is huge, and Amazon is dominating that business. So your strategy could be like, if you're in e-commerce or you want to sell e-commerce in the US, is that, should I put all my, where do I do it myself, or do I join up with Amazon? And if I want to do that in Asia, do I do that myself, or do I join up and become a partner and trust that Alibaba will help me? So yeah, and as if you can obviously, if you have a product that you can actually ask yourself, shall we go global with this product or not?
Yeah.
And that would take a long time, just a couple of years ago. So,
Yeah.
so there's.
Yeah. We have one question here. I want to mix in this question in the conversation. Is it anybody in this room working in a multicultural company, translating any type of ads, for example?
I have been, not anymore.
All right. Any past experience that you can share about this multicultural aspect of, advertising?
Well, it depends if this is what you mean. For example, we've been working with an Argentinian brand that has presence in the UK, and we try to bring the Argentinian spirit to the actions, to the activation that we did for them. And we had to obviously bring some features from the Argentinian style into the British lifestyle. And that's something that we do pretty usually, well, mostly working also from Argentina sometimes to some of the markets in the region in Latin America, or from Mexico, or do you mean literally translating?
Well, I think it could go both ways. I mean, does it apply to translate it literally?
Yeah. Well, I think what's most important, I want to take a step back here and kind of support what Frederick was saying about PR. Obviously, I come from that world, and I see all of this like as one big thing. It's a big marketing mix. I don't just see it as compartmentalized. Wow.
Compartmentalized, yeah.
It's gone. So compartment, yes. No. So and we have this conversation with Juan a lot, because I always say that even influencer marketing has lots of PR in it. But taking that step back, what you really need to figure out first, and even before you kind of reassess what is the first thing you're going to do, is like, think about the story, think about your narrative, and if that sells at a local level, or what are you going to bring from your values into that? You can't tell the same story everywhere. And this is something that we were talking from the very beginning. And same with when trying to open in a new market, is it, what are they going to care about? You need to try to make whatever audience you're talking to care about what you have. So sometimes it's a matter of, okay, should I go with PR because I have like a very powerful story that I can tell that it's newsworthy, and this is what I'm going to do first, and then kind of support it with marketing? Or is it something that it's so small that I need to go to niche influencers that start kind of positioning my product and or my brand, and it's so niche that it becomes a bit of a cult thing, and starts getting broader and broader attention? Or is it going to be exclusively doing AdWords, which I would never suggest doing just that, but is it something very transactional that I sell? So I think that working on that narrative, understanding what are your strengths and that differentiator, that so you can find that white space to break the noise and try to be the one that tells something new and something attractive. And this is kind of the mindset that we use when we work with influencers, because these guys are already talking to a community that trusts them, that will be probably driving action because they already have a conversation and a dialogue that it's organic and you can intervene it without much disruption, and you are able to tell a story or tell something that's a bit more complex and not just, hopefully we try to avoid those campaigns like transactional, here's my product, and it's a revolving door of things and products and brands and sponsored content. So I think there's many tools that you can use, but it is important. Again, it's not like one shoe fits everyone. I think you really need to think about what's your differentiator, what's going to make them care, anyone, your audience, and how can you stand out of the crowd. And it doesn't matter how big or small you are. I think small businesses can do it, sometimes easier than the big ones.
Okay, we have.
Sorry, Juan was.
I think that was great. Oh, Juan, you were going to say something? Sorry, I didn't see your hand there.
Well, I was to resume that. I think that Frederick was talking about this big supermarket like this Amazon or Alibaba or Mercado Libre in Latin America, and Annika in her first intervention talked about brands, not building brands. So I think there's a big temptation just to make transactional ads to sell right now and have like short-term business and to convert rapidly. So there's a lot of temptation to do that, but it's like I think in this moment it's like it's kind of risky because in the long term the brand is the only thing that we stayed out. No? The products are very similar. In fact, they are very similar. But the brand, you are going to buy the story. They're going to buy the brand. No, there's a little example in Argentina right now with the pandemic. There's a face mask that was made in Argentina with some scientific of the CONICET. It's the face mask that everyone wants to have, and they are paying more money for a face mask that is kind of. It's not nice. It's like ugly, but they're buying this because it was made in Argentina with Argentinian scientists, and it was like, okay, we're buying this. We're not buying the other mask that was made in China. We're buying this. So okay, let's do it. But they're buying the story. They're not buying the face mask. Yeah.
Right. Excellent. Well, I want to have one last question for everybody. And if you could summarize in a brief sentence for SMEs and small companies trying to enter a new market, what not to do? Think of one not to do. Don't
give up easily. Don't give up easily. It's hard. It's hard.
Yes, and also I think it's very important to do a previous market research and understand the market you are going to enter. Not just because you are very well known in your country, you are strong there. You are new, you are weak in the other market. You're no one. So be very precautious on that and go step by step and don't give up easily, but you're going to be hitting hard at the beginning. So be aware of that and be prepared for that.
Be prepared.
Not to knock you down just with a hit.
Good. Excellent. Annika?
Be the best, or so seek help from the best that can identify the most strategic opportunities in that particular market and then act on it.
Excellent. Frederick?
The question was
what not to do.
What not to do. Okay.
What not to do.
Oh, did I tell them what to do?
Okay, doesn't matter. We forgive you. It doesn't matter.
I do not do the not word. I do
okay,
not
that's fine. Or what to do. Okay, what to do is fine too.
Well, I think many people already know what not to do, but they will find out what they shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
quite obviously.
Too late.
Yeah, so that it's really hard learning for many companies. So, and I think what everybody's saying, do your market research, whatever. And I do agree on that. What I find what we can do today that we couldn't do a couple of years ago is that we can really find out a lot more about the new market at a very, not a high cost.
Mm.
It's all the data is out there. You know, you can really find out you can do testing and you can find out whether there is an interest or not. If there's people who wants to be quite transparent and go ask the consumers in this new market about your product, or do a very small test campaign and see, am I getting any retention? What is happening? And do I need to localize? Or so there's a lot of things you can do to find out a bit more that you couldn't do. You can do that quite a lot on your own, just by analyzing Google Analytics, doing a test campaign in a very direct, in a small town in this new country, see what happens. Mm-hmm. This is obviously easier for people selling online or with a as SaaS, software as a service companies or so don't try test and before you go to market and see what happens and learn a bit. Yeah. And then maybe you should know this market is not for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that is a great concept, because I think a lot of companies do not sometimes value the importance of knowing that is not a good market for them. And you know that
you have to validate, validate in the market, trying to find out for yourself, or use a consultant, a growth consultant, and do A, B, and C tests on your communication and see what's working, what's not working, or is this a dead market? And there's probably a better market somewhere else.
Yeah, what we see from the Chamber of Commerce is a lot of companies underestimating the local competition, in all sort of products. And really big brands are the worst offenders. And they think they're big, they can go anywhere, they can enter any market. And you hear a lot of sad stories about that. So I would say from the side of the chamber is always do not underestimate the local competitors, do not underestimate the local consumers, because they may not like your product. Your brand, as Annika said, obviously takes precedence in all this. They may not know your brand. But from our perspective, and we Argentines know the whole Latin American concept, do not enter Brazil. If you're going to enter Argentina with the same strategy, it's a different market, it's a different audience. But it's surprising to see how many companies make that mistake, and how bloody the whole situation is at the end. But anyway, Paula, Paula, your comment.
No, I think obviously I have to agree with everything. And the only thing I would add is, in the same light that you are saying, and Frederick was saying, don't go without knowing who your audience is. I see that very frequently, and you need to understand who they are, where they are, who are they consuming, where are they consuming, why, and things like this that will help you shape. And and you need to assess what you have and say, what's my best shot with what I know. And I think understanding who's your consumer is one of the best, most strategic ways to design a plan and have a north. So without that, there's no many places you're going to make it.
Yeah. Rohit here is making a comment, which is interesting. I'm running a food industry product. I am doing the same in our industry. We have designed different kind of packagings for different countries, different country, different culture. So that is one example of, the same product in different markets.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody for joining us today. For those who attended and for our prestigious panel, it was great to have you all. I really enjoyed the conversation. I invite everybody to join us and contact us if you want to have a conversation with each of the panelists. We're happy to make introductions, and do not hesitate to contact us. And I wish you all, a very good 2021 or whatever is rest of it, and with lots of business. And I'm very happy to have had this event, and I look forward to another opportunity of having you all on board. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
very
bye-bye.
much.
Chat. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.